Welcome to tonight's episode of Welcome to the End of the World podcast. This is episode 13. What a lucky number. And it's happening
Ooh,
right before Halloween. We are recording the day before Halloween. And I'm here with Travis. Say hello, Travis.
hey there, everybody.
Do you have a favorite Halloween memory before we get into tonight's episode
Ooh,
as we're talking about Halloween?
that's a great question. Halloween memory.
Yeah, Halloween memory.
Uh, I don't, I don't really have like a lot of Halloween memories so much. It was always just kind of like I don't know. When I was a kid, I don't know. The way I would dress up was always kind of a last minute idea or something, and it
Yeah.
was just stuff we had around. I can't remember what we had, but I used it as a beard and I just walked around with a stick. I don't know. And I was like an old man. That sort of thing. I was that weirdo of a kid. I didn't have any theme or anything. I didn't go with any kind of pop culture. In fact, one year I did Tom Sawyer. That's as close to pop culture as I've ever gotten. But I don't know. I love Halloween. I will say this. I do have a Halloween tradition around here. Like it was with my dad. We will watch it's kind of like how people will watch A Christmas Story on Christmas. We watch Rocky Horror Picture Show kind of a few times. So
Hmm. Nice.
that I
Nice.
like that. That's one of the things we really do. But as far as like memories from it, it didn't really. I don't know why because I love Halloween. It's probably my favorite holiday, but just for some reason I just can't. Nothing really sticks out. I don't know why that is. That's weird. I didn't think about it before now. How about yourself?
I have a few that stand out. I remember trick-or-treating when I was a kid. My parents,
Hmm.
we didn't really go out without them. They didn't let us do that. They were not that
Hmm.
trustworthy. We went to the mall and did trick-or-treating at the mall. That was a thing in Texas back in
Yeah.
the day. I don't know if it still is, but yeah, like the mall would stay open a little bit later, and then they would have like all the shops would have candy, and then you would just like walk around the mall. And
Hmm.
yeah, it was bizarre and it was weird. I remember being kind of annoyed because like, you'd walk into like the EB games and be like, "Oh, I want that game." And they're like, "Sorry, kid, we're closed.
Huh.
Here's some candy." Be like, "I don't want your fucking candy. I
Right.
want freedom
Oh.
fighters, god damn it." Um so that then I my mom was of the variety that when we got to be like 11, 12, like not that old, she basically was
Mhm.
like, y'all can't do this anymore.
Oh.
So stopped trick-or-treating, stopped doing all that, stopped really dressing up kind of early on. So instead, I got more into watching movies, kind of like yourself.
Mhm.
Except I kind of
Yep.
had my own tradition. No one else in my family really likes scary movies. Even my dad loves movies. We grew
Yeah.
up watching movies together. He's introduced me to a lot of movies, but never like any scary movies. It was never his jam. He just doesn't
Right.
like them. I love them.
Oh, yeah.
So before I met my wife, I had my own little solo tradition.
Mhm.
After I've met my wife, we have our new tradition. So my old tradition, my solo tradition, was AMC, the television channel.
Yep.
Or on the day of Halloween, they used to do like a constant marathon of all the Halloween movies, like back to back to back to back to back.
Mhm.
Starting with John Carpenter's first two, and then going into the third one, and then back to Michael Myers in the fourth and fifth and sixth, all the way up to, I believe at that point they were showing up to like H2O. Rob Zombies hadn't come out yet.
Right.
Um, that was my tradition, is I would just like stay up all night long and watch all the Halloween movies. I
Mhm.
basically just marathoned that whole thing wherever it was, and I would just go and eat a bunch of snacks. And that was one thing. Like my mom and dad, even though they didn't let us trick or treat, for whatever reason, I don't know what their
Mhm.
agenda was there. I don't know. They never explained it. It was just like one day we were in the car and they were like, "Yeah, we're y'all aren't doing this anymore." We were like, "Okay, okay, I guess that's that." Never explained. I should ask my parents why now that I'm an adult.
Yeah,
Be like, what the
really.
fuck was that about? What was the agenda
Yeah.
there? Did someone at
It
church tell
was
you something about trick or treating or something? Because we just never did it anymore. We just didn't participate. So instead, I just sat in my room and what we did do is my parents would order like a pizza or something like that. And
Mhm.
so we would, sit around, my parents would do their thing, which was mostly just, it was like a regular day at the work. Um,
Yep.
but I would kind of eat pizza and hang out, have fun, especially if it was
Yeah.
heading into a weekend. If it was heading into a weekday, then, usually you would be like, tomorrow's gonna suck at school, but whatever.
Yeah.
As an adult, my wife and my wife is a big Halloween fan. She's a
Yeah.
goth girl. So she is a big, big, big Halloween fan. So for us, we do like a whole 30 days of movies thing, where basically every
Awesome.
single night we watch a horror movie, or a thriller movie. It's usually from our collection, sometimes ones that are brand new. It just kind of depends on what came out. Recently, we watched the Anna Kendrick movie on Netflix about the dating game killer. That was pretty
Oh,
good.
I don't know that one.
I forget the name of it, honestly. I'm bad with
Yeah.
movie names unless it's like something I've seen several times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, Anna Kendrick is in it. It's on Netflix. It's about the dating game killer. It was really good. I really liked that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what we do is we just watch a bunch of horror movies. We live on a dead end street, but no one really trick or treats where we live
Oh, yeah.
on our dead end street, so we don't really even bother doing trick or treating. Like, it's no literally we've lived here for almost 10 years. We've had one person come by ever.
Oh,
One.
wow.
One. And we actually had candy that year. But we
Yeah.
were out in the backyard taking the dog's potty whenever he came by. So
Wow.
whenever yeah, it was a funny situation. He came by at just the exact bad time. Yeah, yeah, that was when my wife hadn't given up on putting out candy for everybody because yeah, other years we'd put it out and literally nobody, other than like maybe a raccoon would try to come steal some candy or something. But there were never any kids that came by. It was just like we don't live in that kind of neighborhood.
Yeah, it's
Um,
getting like that here.
yeah, it's getting like that everywhere. It seems like I was asking the students I teach, and most of them were like, "No, I don't trick or treat. I just it's not something we do." And I'm like, "All right, that's it.
Well,
Interesting."
now you talk to you teach older kids, right? Or no? Are you
Yeah, no,
still
I teach
doing
high school kids. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, so
So
these are like
they
10th graders, 11th graders, ninth graders at the youngest.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess were they saying that they just didn't do much when they were
Nah,
younger, or
never have really.
wait, really?
Yeah, just not a thing that they might
Huh.
go to like church functions. They tell me that they do like trunk or treats, which I guess
Yeah,
they go
trunk
to
or
like a
treat.
truck. They go to like someone's parking lot of a school
Yeah.
or of a church, and then there's like cars that have candy on the trunks, and you just like come by and grab candy, and you
Somehow
just
that
walk in
seems
a
safer.
parking lot. I guess I don't know. Maybe it's like you have to kind of sign up for it or something. It's more of a
Yeah.
gated thing. Not really sure. But yeah, fortunately, the movie that we're talking about tonight doesn't really have a lot of natural segues into
Yeah.
into Halloween.
Nope,
There
nope.
are some horrific parts of it, but for the
Yeah,
most part, it's a pretty good movie, I think.
I enjoyed it.
Let's go ahead and talk about it. Tonight we're talking about Blood of Heroes from 1989. This is a one of a kind movie in the respect that it is probably the only post-apocalyptic sports movie
Yeah,
you might see. I don't want to say the only because there are probably others.
there
Um,
might be.
and if you include
Uh,
rollerblading, there are a lot of
oh,
others.
okay, yeah, there are.
But I don't know if they're necessarily positioning it like it's a competitive thing. Like if Airborne was, I dropped that for you. If Airborne was set in a Mad Max universe, which it might
The
be, honestly. Let's
I was
go
gonna
back
say
and rewatch that movie.
you might be talking about solar babies on that one.
It's true. It's true.
Although I don't know if that was
Um,
post-apocalypse. That was just I don't know. That was just
Solar Baby.
dystopian.
Well, we'll talk about it later. Actually,
That
that might
could be
be
a
that
thing.
might be a reference to what we watch later on
Hey,
next week.
hey.
Foreshadowing. Bright lights.
Nice.
Blade of Heroes, 1989 is what we're talking about. This movie was also
Yep.
released internationally as Salute of the Jugger, and it
Yes.
is like I said, it is a post-apocalyptic sports movie with a really good cast, a really good writer and director.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it did not do very well, unfortunately, and it's a shame
Really?
because had this done well, I think it could have been made for a bunch of fun times. So
Oh,
a little bit
absolutely.
a little bit of the background, and then we'll get into the plot. And yeah, I think this is going to be one of our shorter episodes, because there isn't as much details about this. Because similar to last week's episode, our writer director, as far as directing goes, this is pretty much it. He didn't really
Oh,
do a whole lot. He directed this movie and a short and nothing else. Our director is David Webb Peoples. is his name, David Peoples.
Hmm.
Now, as a writer, he is a lot more prolific. As a writer,
Okay.
he wrote the story or the screenplay for the following. I'm just going to read them off, and there's a lot.
Yeah.
Blade Runner,
Oh.
Lady Hawk.
Ooh.
Both of those star Rutger Hauer, who
I
is
was
the
about to
star
say
of this movie
he's
as
got a
well. So
real
you can see, yeah, you can tell that he definitely kind of hooked up with Rutger and was like, I can write good for this guy. I want him to be in the only movie he wrote and direct is this movie. So
Oh,
um,
okay.
yeah. He also directed Leviathan, the
Okay.
sci-fi movie from the 80s, the early 90s. I
Yep.
can't remember which. Um, Took a little bit of a turn, and wrote Unforgiven.
Oh, ooh.
Yep.
For Clint.
Mm-hmm. Didn't direct, I mean, didn't direct, but wrote another movie that we are definitely going to talk about very soon, 12 Monkeys.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So you're getting a flavor for he's done a lot of sci-fi writing.
Yep.
And his stories are usually these very intricate worlds that he kind of
Mm-hmm.
begins to sparse out by via these interesting kind of male characters interacting with the world around them.
Yes.
Um, Continued that with Soldier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking Universal Soldier or something like that. I may not know this one.
Well, you're not far off. This is a I believe Kurt Douglas, or not Kurt Douglas. Yeah, I think Kurt Douglas is in Soldier. I'm not
Really?
sure. Let me double check because I wrote it down, but there's a
Yeah.
lot of movies called Soldier, so I got to double check this one. This is from, I believe, 1998.
Okay.
Soldier, not Soldier Boy. That's a different thing. That's a different thing entirely. Soldier, Kurt Russell. Okay, so I wasn't completely
Oh,
off.
okay.
So Kurt Russell, Jason Lee Scott, Connie Nelson,
Oh,
Gary Busey. Yeah.
I know which movie you're talking about. It's the one, yeah, they're not so much, it's not like Universal Soldier where they're like cyborgs or whatever. It's
Yes.
like they're like what's the word? Genetically modified or something like that, like
Something
genetically
like that.
created. I like that
Interesting
movie.
connection to someone else we talked about. Same director as Resident Evil, another film that we talked about.
Oh,
And the last movie that he wrote that I felt like writing down that was just interesting to me was Hero, that Dustin Hoffman movie from
I've
the 80s about like a guy, like a random nobody who just kind of like becomes a hero and a celebrity.
mm-hmm. See, I've never actually seen that one. That has Gina Davis in it too, right?
It does.
I'm
It
just
is
yeah, okay.
it's worth watching once and then you'll probably never see it ever again.
Yeah. See, I've
It's
seen
one
it.
of those
I
movies that
remember
like it now it would be impossible for you to watch because there'd be no reason for you to go and find it on any streaming services and watching it unless you were just really curious to watch every Dustin Hoffman movie or Gina Davis
right.
movie.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know why you would seek it out. But back in the day, like this would be that it's the perfect kind of movie that used to show up on like TNT in the middle of the afternoon that
Mm-hmm.
you would catch a portion of when you were homesick or something.
Yeah.
But it's one of those type of movies. You know,
I remember seeing
you
it.
might watch it and get engaged for a minute or so, finish it until the end, but you're probably not going to seek it out afterwards.
Right, yeah. Like I remember seeing the poster, or not the poster, but the cover a
Yeah.
lot at the video store, like the rentals, like Blockbuster, or we had a Radio Shack because I was in a small town when I
Yeah.
was younger. It was a Radio Shack that they also rented movies out of. So like in this corner of a Radio Shack. But I remember seeing the cover, and I just for whatever reason I never grabbed it, so never actually saw it.
Nice.
Hmm.
I only ever saw it on, like I said, TNT when I was sick one day.
Yeah,
Literally, what I described is what happened to me. That's how I believe I watched it.
that's
Um,
awesome.
so this movie came out in February 23rd, 1990. Would you like? We're continuing our tradition like we started
Oh
last
yeah,
week. So it's just a 2 week tradition until I forget to look it up one day. Would you like
I
to
like it.
know or guess what were the top 5 songs that were on the charts on that day this movie came
Oh
out,
the oh
February
the day.
23rd, 1990. So we're talking early 90s, which in America meant still the 80s.
Still the 80s. I was 6 years old.
Hmm.
Um,
I was 3.
yeah, so we're
Yeah.
not that far apart.
Yeah.
Um, but I would have turned 7 that year. So, but let's see. I'm trying to think.
Would it help if I gave you a hint? Do you want to start with number 1 or number 5? Which
I, I
direction do
feel
you want to
like
go?
I feel like I wouldn't be shocked if like it was either like Motley Crue or Guns N' Roses or somebody
So
like
I'm gonna
that.
no hair metal at all. No hair metal in the top five at
Now I'm
all.
just upset.
No hair metal in the top five at all. There's only one. I don't think there's one group that you would kind of tangentially associate with rock music, but I wouldn't even really call it that.
Oh, well, now
More
I am at
like
a loss.
maybe like adult contemporary
Huh.
pop, maybe adult pop. I'm not even sure what category you would put it in under radio nowadays. It's a
Okay, I'm
band my
interested
dad
now.
loves. Number five is by Chicago. Would you like to try to guess the song?
Oh, 90s Chicago? Oh, I can't even.
1990 Chicago.
I don't know. I only know old Chicago, I think, unless I don't.
Old Chicago is much better than
Oh
90s
yeah.
Chicago. So it's not 25 or 64. It is What
Yep.
Kind of Man Would I Be?
That's a hell of a title.
I'll let you remember that song because I have no idea.
I nope.
Number four is an interesting footnote in American history. It is a song by Milli Vanilli.
Oh Lord.
Do you
Oh
remember
boy.
any Milli Vanilli songs? I actually own a Milli Vanilli cassette tape just for
Do
the
you
shits
really?
and giggles. Yeah, just for the shits and giggles. I found it at like a
That's
thrift shop for like 50 cents once.
that's
And I
awesome.
was like, hell yeah, I'll own a Milli Vanilli cassette tape.
Would it have been the one that like you ought to know or girl you know or whatever? I
See, that's the one I would have gone with too. Apparently, it was All or Nothing, which I don't even know if I know that song. The title alone did not invoke
yeah.
any immediate memories in me, and it also I didn't want to look it up either.
No.
So number three is a Roxette song.
Okay. Oh man, Roxette. Because they did that. One of the Roxette songs wasn't it in like Top Gun or something? It was.
I believe I don't know when Top Gun came out. It may have been around this time.
I can't remember.
The song that
Roxette
was number three was Dangerous, is the song.
Dangerous.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? Roxette wasn't on Top Gun. Roxette
Okay.
was on Pretty Woman.
Ah, gotcha. Pretty Woman. Yes, a
Yes.
movie that my wife loves. Um, Number two is a Janet Jackson song. I literally did not even, I could not even be bothered to look up the name of it.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I just was like a Janet Jackson song. It was
Yeah.
one I had never heard of before.
Oh, okay. Then it wasn't
Never
the one
heard
where
of.
they're in a where
No,
they're
no, no.
dancing in like a
No,
warehouse or
no,
whatever,
no.
like
The
a
only song on this top five list that I am familiar with is the number one song,
oh,
which,
okay.
whoa, I dropped my pen. Paula Abdul. Would you like to take a guess at what was the number one
Oh
song Paula
man.
Abdul?
So there was either the one why don't I remember names of songs anymore? Oh, where's it was the one where she's either
Dancing with
oh
the
the only
Cat?
one I was gonna say Dancing with the Cat. That's the
Yeah,
one I
yeah.
can remember. That's the only one I can think of right now.
That is Opposites Attract, and that is the name, that is the song. Yep, that was the number one song when this movie came out, was Opposites Attract by Paula
Yep.
Abdul.
Yeah, I remember watching that as a kid.
There you go. So, like I said, this movie had a different title overseas. It was called Salute of the Jugger over there.
Hmm.
And overseas version is actually 12 minutes longer. And we'll go
Oh,
over some
really?
of the differences between the two versions. Yeah. You and I both watched the American version.
Yeah.
Because that's really much the only that you can find the European version, but you're gonna have to buy it. Streaming version is the American version.
Oh, okay.
So let's get over the cast real fast. There's a lot of people in this movie. There's some
Yeah.
post-apocalyptic Hall of Famers here. Um, Max Fairchild, who we will see in several movies coming up, and Richard
Hmm.
Norton, who we will also see in several movies coming up. Both of them show up in this movie.
Hmm.
They are a supporting cast, and our main stars are Juggers, are Rutger Hauer, who unfortunately
Awesome.
passed in 2019. Do you have a favorite Rutger
Yep.
Hauer movie?
I mean, it's kind of Blade Runner because he
Blade
really
Blade Runner
does.
is amazing. Can't kind of
Yes.
hard to say anything bad about Blade Runner. Other good
Yeah.
movies that he was in Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal, which is one of my favorite movies of all time.
And you know what? I don't know if I've seen the third one.
Yeah, so Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal is about basically this Marilyn Manson ripoff, and he is having a concert on an airline, and it's being covered by all these different people who think he's like doing this like demonic rituals, and really there's a terrorist on board, and he's going to help fight the terrorists
Oh.
along with the FBI. It's an extremely silly movie. I actually own it on DVD. It's one that I used to watch a lot of on HBO, and I never remember the
Hmm.
name. I could never remember the name of it. And then eventually, when I got older, I was able to look it up, and I was like, Turbulence 3, Heavy Metal. Got it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so that was actually one of my first introductions to Rutger Hauer beyond Blade Runner
Okay.
and Lady Hawk.
I was gonna say
Other good
Lady Hawk was
movies.
probably my intro.
Yeah, Hitcher is an amazing horror movie that he's in.
Yeah.
He's in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Is
Um,
he?
he is Hobo with a Shotgun.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
yeah.
and he's also in a movie that came out the same year as this movie called Blind Fury, which is a really fun movie about a
That.
basically Rutger Hauer being blind, and which is kind of interesting because he's half blind in this movie.
Yep. There's.
Uh,
I wonder if that was like an issue for him or something. Maybe he got something in his eye, and he's like, "Oh, I know. I have an idea."
Next up, we got Delroy Lindo, who is in a ton of Spike Lee movies. Do you have a favorite Delroy Lindo movie? Or any one thing that comes to mind that he's been in that
Oh
you liked?
man, I he's one of those guys you just like. I don't know. Once he comes on screen, it's like I feel almost comforted because I'm like, this is a familiar place now.
Yeah.
He's like I've seen this guy my entire life. It's like
So
it's
go
I
ahead.
can't think of one that really sticks out because he's just so good in so many things.
Here's some good ones that I wrote down. He has quite the extensive filmography, but
Yes.
some ones that I wrote down as being like really fun that I remember or really liking. The Core, Ransom,
Yep.
Broken Arrow, Clockers,
Yep.
Malcolm X, Crooklyn, Blood In, Blood Out. Like I said, a lot of
Yes.
Spike Lee movies. He was in a lot of Spike Lee movies. Um, Next up, we got Joan Chen, who was in Judge Dredd, and she also played a major part
Ah.
in the Twin Peaks TV show.
Oh, did she? See,
Yes,
I never
she
watched.
is.
Unfortunately, and this is like a weird. I kind of feel ashamed. I've never seen any Twin Peaks.
I really like it. My wife does not like it. It moves too slow for her. It bores the shit out of her. We have tried to watch Twin Peaks, and every time our
Yeah.
friends talk about it, I get really interested because I really love Twin Peaks. But my
Yeah.
wife is of the opinion that it's just too fucking slow. She she doesn't like that it moves that
A
slow.
little too David Lynch.
A little too Lynchian for her liking.
Yeah.
But Joan Chen is in this movie, and she plays the Quick, who has a
Yep.
major role in it, maybe the second most important character in the entire
I
movie.
would say.
And yeah, this is around the time or shortly after this is when she starts becoming much more popular in Twin Peaks. Um,
Hmm.
the other female character in the film is Anna Contriana. I believe I'm pronouncing that last name right. I may be wrong. She has been in a lot of movies, but not really any
Yeah.
starring roles in anything. The most prominent thing you probably might remember her in is she was the poodle lady in Batman Returns.
Oh, okay. I know exactly who you're talking about.
Nice. And then our last big star is Vinny Boy himself, obviously in
Oh,
Full Metal
yes.
Jacket.
Yep.
The Cell, which is a
uh,
weird movie.
the first movie I ever saw him in, Adventures in Babysitting, where
He
he was that
plays
mechanic.
Thor. Yeah, he plays the
Yep.
mechanic slash Thor. He's
Yep.
in a movie I really like, Still This Movie. He plays Abby Hoffman. I thought he was great in
Well,
that.
he really.
Yeah, he's great in that movie.
I've never seen it, or I've seen parts of it, but I don't. I guess I just never placed him.
Yeah. He has long hair though, so it's kind of, and he lost a bunch of weight, so it kind of doesn't look like
Oh,
him. But if you look at his face, you kind of like, oh shit, that is him.
yeah. I'm gonna have to
Um,
rewatch it.
and he's also been in Law and Order for like a long time now. So he's been
Yeah.
in a bunch of Law and Order episodes as well. So I really like him. My obviously
Yes.
loved him in Full Metal Jacket. He is
Oh,
in
yeah.
intense in Full Metal Jacket. He'll give you
He's intense.
nightmares. He'll give you nightmares.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say he's intense in this movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think he can turn it off.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Um this movie was filmed, so that's our cast. I mean, it's not a whole lot of people. There aren't a whole lot of people in
Yeah.
this movie. I guess there are some, but there aren't really a whole lot of stars other than like this
No,
group of people who were in a bunch of things. There was a bunch of Australian actors as this
I
movie
could
was
hear it.
filmed in Australia. Um, so it kind of took the Mad Max exploitation of what was kind of already big, and yeah, kind of filmed it in Australia. And a lot of the actors, like I said, Max Fairchild, Richard Norton, both of these guys would
Hmm.
be in Mad Max as well. So they kind of had already popped up in the other universes of around this film.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's our background. The other most interesting thing about this is that this sport that this movie is based off of, which is called, I suppose, juggering, which I'm trying my
Yeah.
best not to say juggaloing. So a couple
Oh
things
man.
about juggering. One, it has become a full-fledged fucking sport.
Yep.
It is very popular in Germany. It's very popular in
Yes.
the Netherlands. It is very popular in Ireland. There are American teams. Fret not,
Yes.
American listeners. You too can start your own Jugger league. I think the most closest one to either of us is in Oklahoma, is what I was looking
Oh,
up.
that's a shame.
There's a lot of different versions. Some versions are more traditional to the movie. Some versions modify the rules a little bit. It just kind of depends. But in essence, what it is full contact LARPing mixed with some rugby. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean LARPing. Like it is expected. There's a referee, and if you get hit in the arm by a pole, you're supposed to pretend like your arm is gone, you know. And if you
Oh
don't, if
yeah.
you're not RPing properly, the referee might, assess a penalty onto you.
Mm-hmm. So yeah.
Um, there are tournaments. There have been winners. There have been brackets. There is a
Oh.
current world ranking. I believe Rigor Mortis is the number one team at
Yeah, that was the name I
time
saw.
of writing. Yes, you and I talked about this before we started the stream. Both of
Mm-hmm.
us went online and watched some Jugger events.
Yeah.
What did you think of it? I
I,
watched 20 minutes of it before I kind of lost interest.
I didn't go that long.
Okay.
Yeah, it's it's a tad chaotic. It's
It's a
one of those
clusterfuck. It
things.
is a massive clusterfuck,
Yes,
but
and
somehow slower than you would expect.
that's the other part. And I think it's a lot of because they're really trying to be safe, which is a good
Yes.
idea. You
Yes.
should be safe
They're also
because
covering a massive distance. Like it's like a football field.
yeah,
Like
it's
these
I
guys
mean,
have to be winded.
oh yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they are, yeah, because I don't think they were in that big. Well, I mean, I guess I understand the need for it to be a bigger area, but I don't think it needs to be that big. You could probably do half that, and then
Maybe.
just,
Maybe see now we're modifying the rules. We're not sticking true to
yeah,
the
see.
traditional sport of juggering. Where has this sport gone? God damn it. We lost our ways. Now we got fucking juggers out there making millions. This is bullshit.
We've gone
Absolute
Hollywood.
bullshit. We've gone Hollywood. There's a documentary called "I Am a Jugger," and
Oh,
it's on YouTube, and
ah,
it's like an over an hour long. It's longer than we're gonna talk about this movie, um, and it's all about the sport and like why these people do it. It's really interesting because they make their own weapons, but they have to fit
yeah.
certain modifications. As we get into the movie, you'll learn more about what it is. But basically, like I said, it's a full contact LARP. Like so, imagine like styrofoam weaponry
Mm-hmm. Pool
and
noodles
shields,
and
pull noodles, shields, the whole thing. And now we're playing rugby kind of on top of that with its own specific set of rules because it's kind of like
mm-hmm.
rugby but a little not like rugby. Rugby is the closest sport I could compare it to because it's not really like
Yeah,
football. There's not like an offense or a defense or anything like that.
no,
There's one person who's trying to score and everybody else is trying to defend. it- it's
it's,
kind of its own unique sport in a way. It's interesting that it
mm-hmm.
kind of took off. That people were like, you know what, I like this enough from this movie, which was a failure, which we'll get to in a minute,
Right.
to kind of turn it into its own thing, which is to survive
Yeah,
for years now. Like it has been going on. So I'm not shitting on it. I think it's kind of interesting. It's not for
yeah.
me. It's like I said, it's not for me. I love watching the highlights. The
Oh, the
highlights are
highlights are cool.
intense. They're crazy intense. Like it looks nuts. It's like pro wrestling. It's fun.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, actually watching it's kind of slow moving, and after like 20 minutes, it's kind of like football to me. This is why
Yeah.
I prefer basketball to football. Where after 20 minutes, I'm like, oh, we're still in the first quarter, huh? Huh. Well, fuck me. All right then. Oh,
That's
we're going
funny.
to commercial again. Okay, cool.
No, yep.
Yeah, it just moves a little too slow for my
Yeah.
interest, which is fine. Um, I
Oh man,
maybe I
you
should
must not
watch
be able to
more.
watch baseball then.
I mean, I prefer to playing baseball to watching baseball,
Yeah.
but at least, I mean, if I'm going to watch baseball, I'm going to get drunk. Otherwise,
Oh yeah.
what else am I doing with my life, right? What
Hey,
else am I
even
doing?
for playing.
It's true.
So,
That's true.
uh,
I do like that
speaking
baseball
of,
is one of the only sports that you can play with a beer belly, and everyone's like, "This is appropriate.
yeah,
This is
this
fine.
works.
This
This guy
works for
will
you."
hit.
Yeah, he can hit. He don't got to run. If he hits it out
Yeah,
of the park,
right.
he can take a slight jog. Speaking of
Yeah.
slight jogs, let's slight jog on
Oh,
from the
nice.
background into the plot. But before we do that, a little lasting thing to note: the budget of this movie was about $10 million.
Wow.
It made 880,000.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, so that's why there was never a sequel. That's
Yeah.
why we don't have anything else to really go off of there.
That's
So
why I didn't hear about it until you brought it to me.
I had never heard about this movie until I was doing research into post-apocalyptic movies and saw that. I was like, "What is Blood of Heroes?" That's because it's a generic name, Blood of Heroes. It
Yeah.
could be a war movie.
Could be,
So you
yeah.
type it in and you're like, "Okay, Rutger Hauer." Like, all right, I'm immediately interested there. And
Yep.
then they do more research and you're like, "Oh, it's a sports movie," and it's like, okay, I gotta watch this. So yeah, this is the only movie that we have watched so far on our list that I do not own. Every other movie that we have
Oh,
watched, I own a copy of or have purchased a copy of, including Bed Sitting Room. I
yeah.
actually bought a copy of that. It just came in like 3 weeks after we recorded that one. We might have to come back to Bed Sitting Room at some point.
I think it's worth at least a conversation, you know.
Yeah, yeah, we kind of missed out on that. Um,
Yeah.
Not missing out on this, let's get into the plot. So the movie starts with a little Star Wars effort, little plot point telling you right there at the beginning some
Yep.
important information. It says people no longer remember the golden age of the 20th century. They don't remember the miraculous tech or the cruel wars that followed. They didn't remember when the Juggers first played the game or how it came to be played with a dog skull. And that's how the movie starts. Um,
Yep.
And then, well, it doesn't actually start there because then the next start of the movie is a kid running through a village yelling that the Juggers are coming.
Yeah.
And then that
Now,
doesn't actually
is
start the
it
movie either. Go ahead.
how did you watch did you watch this movie on like on a TV or a computer? Because I'm
I
assuming you watched it on Roku channel.
I watched this on Plex actually because
Oh.
I clicked the link on IMDb and it took
Oh,
me to
okay.
Plex and had me watch it. And I watched this on my cell phone
Oh.
because my wife was not interested in watching it.
Oh, really? This didn't
Yeah. I told her post-apocalyptic sports movie, and she was like, "I'm good. You can watch that on your own." And I was like, "All right then." So I watched it on my phone because it was streaming,
Yeah.
and yeah, don't own it, so didn't have to put it on the TV to watch it. So
Was it like
might buy it
real
after this.
quiet? Like
Yeah, yeah. There was some. I didn't have super many problems with the audio. It was okay.
for some reason I did in here, and I watched it on the Roku channel, and
Ah,
it was like really low resolution. But I did go in the living room and I put it on that one. I usually don't watch anything in there because there's always something going in there. Somebody's always watching something. Um, so I don't. But I
yeah.
put it on there for a little bit, like for maybe like 20 minutes or so, just to see. And it looked and sounded great there. I don't know why
Hmm,
I don't know if it's just not optimized or something. I don't know.
who
But
knows?
yeah, it was like I struggled. I had to watch it a few times. Just like I had to put my earbuds in. Like I had to. It wasn't an
Fuck,
easy watch right away.
Roku people are fucking up.
I was about to say I may have to check out the one on Plex and see what it looks like.
I didn't have any issues with it. It was fine. The Plex
Yeah,
service, I don't know if I recommend or don't recommend it. I only used it literally to watch this movie and then
yeah,
never probably will
yeah. I was
look
gonna.
at it again.
Yeah,
Um,
I've never seen anything on it. So.
so yeah, this movie unfortunately has a lot of weird openings. Like I said, it starts with
Mm-hmm.
the cold open of the text, and then the
Yep.
next open is the kid running through the village. But we
Yep.
don't get credits until the Juggers are actually suiting up for the first game. So we
Yes.
don't really need any of the stuff before that. We should have just started there.
That really, yeah. It was like
The
they
rest of
couldn't
that was
decide on an
unnecessary.
in. Yeah, they couldn't decide on an intro, and they were just like all three.
Basically, it seemed like it. Basically. So when the movie starts with our first game of juggers, juggerillies. I don't know what the
I think
sport is called other than just the game is all they call it.
they call when they put it up in that text at the beginning, the
Yeah,
game is capitalized. So I guess they
it
just call it
is
the game.
the game. Yeah, yeah. I feel like if we do that, we're setting ourselves up for a lot of poor millennial jokes that have aged.
Oh, yes.
So I'm trying to avoid calling it the game. So
If
instead,
you're
I'm just
talking
going to
about
call it juggering.
the reference you're talking about, is that the movie with Michael Douglas and Sean Penn and
Yes, yes.
yeah.
See, for those of you that are younger, I looked at our statistics, and most of our listeners are around our age, if not older. But a couple of them are younger. So for those few of you that are younger, yes, if you are listening, all millennials love the Michael Douglas movie, The Game. It is something that we're obsessed with. I can't really place as to why. It's kind of like Scott Pilgrim. It's just one of those like
Yeah, it's
cultural
just
touchstones that we all kind of come back to. So I'm trying to
uh
avoid talking about that because it brings up
yes.
a lot of
A lot
triggers
of
and a
2008 memories.
lot of 2008, a lot of 2007, 2000 and a lot
Yeah.
of 2000 and once we had cell phones.
Yep.
A lot of annoying things. Speaking of
I
less
missed out
annoying
on a
things,
lot of years of that.
you yeah, you had a good time there.
Oh, I did.
Um so the rules of juggering are as follows. Basically, this is my abbreviations of the rules.
Yes.
All right, so this is what I wrote down. 100 stones apiece for 3 rounds is what the game is
Hmm.
played as. And by 100 stones, I literally mean some dipshit is going to take 100 stones and throw them against a piece of metal, however long that takes. That
Yep.
inordinate, that undeterminable period of time, however long it takes for this dipshit to throw these stones into this metal, that's a round.
Well,
Or
you're
whoever
acting
gets
like
a
they have
dog
other
skull
ways. Oh, yeah.
onto the pike first also can end the round,
Yes, that's
which
basically
is mostly what happens. The whole point of the like several times in the movie they will reference how many stones they've lasted in like league play, where he's like, I only lasted 26 stones. They're like,
yeah.
26 stones, that's it? Someone else is like, that's a lot, man. You have no idea. The league. Speaking of the league, so that it seems like
Yes.
as we get the world building of this movie, because a lot of this movie is them just juggering, going to a
Yeah,
different
that's
town, juggering, going to a
yeah.
different town, and juggering. It kind of is like a sports movie in the sense that like we're following a
Oh, yeah.
team as they kind of are progressing through the plot.
It's
Um,
it could have been any given Sunday. It could have
yes,
been, any of
and
these
as a
movies.
sports movie, it's pretty fun. Like
Yeah.
it's a cool sports movie. There's
Oh, yeah.
the cast of characters is small enough that we kind of get to know everybody and kind of really get to
Hmm.
start to know these characters, and they're all unique enough in terms of like what they're doing in the sport that you kind of feel like, like Vinny Boy he's the one with the chain, so he's like guard
Yes.
and the quick, and Joan is the quick, so she's trying to get the dog skull and get it on there, and
Yep.
Rutger and Delroy are like the old vets who are just kind of tired of this shit. And Rutger
Yep.
apparently has also played in the league, and the league is something we find out more about. But everyone's talking about it right from the beginning of the movie, right? They're immediately like, "Oh, he
Hmm.
played in the league. Look at the mark
He's
on his
got a
face."
tattoo. Yep.
Yeah, he's got a tattoo. Yeah. So there's different levels of play, right? So they're at one level right now. They're like wandering the wastelands, going from town
Hmm.
to town, a la Seventh Seal, except instead of bringing the plague, they're bringing juggering, right? We're here to play
Yes.
some football, some Monday Night Football.
Yes.
Me and all my rowdy friends are coming over. And so we get our first game. Um, and basically, like I said, it's rugby with weapons.
Hmm.
It sounds pretty
Oh, it
fun.
is.
Like the modern
It's
version that people turned it into is LARPing because they cover their weapons with styrofoam and whatnot. But
yep.
in this version, it is just full on weaponry. Like they
Yep.
have weapons that they are using and they're having a full on battle with each other. They square off 1v1. And
Yep.
then while this is happening, they're trying to clear a path or kill, maim,
Yeah.
whatever they need to do to
Seems
get their
like.
quick to be able to get the dog's skull to the pike first.
Yeah.
That's basically what the rules. That's the premise of what is
Hmm.
happening.
Yeah, and as far as rules go, I don't know. I don't think there's a ref. I don't think I saw a ref in any of
No,
the
no,
games.
no, no, no. So apparently the rules, the modern version, there is like there's a version of it that is more traditional to the rules of the movie, which is basically there
Mm,
aren't a lot of rules.
right.
So it's a little bit more violent. So maybe that's the version I'm
And I
looking
think
for.
that's more of the US side.
Yeah.
Um,
So, yeah.
so
So while this is happening, Joan is watching
mhm.
and she wishes she could join, right?
Yes.
But the quick on the team that her village is representing gets hurt. So she has an
Yes.
opportunity. So she finds herself with the opportunity and she gets in the game,
Hmm.
baby. And not
And
only does
she
she get
has
in the
one of the
game, she's really
I was
fucking
gonna
good.
she's really good. And she has the best line in the entire movie where her and the original quick, that dog boy,
Yes.
where they're squaring off, she says, I'm gonna hurt that leg. I'm gonna break that leg. It's like, oh, I'm gonna use that forever.
There are a
I'm
lot of great
stealing it.
one-liners in this movie. I'm gonna
Oh
break that
yes.
leg.
Oh, I will be saying that again. Like I promise.
So Rutgers team wins, Jones team loses. But after a night of partying, we find out that Rutgers quick dog boy, he's hurt.
Yes, he's hurt bad.
He's hurt bad. He
Wait,
can barely
because
walk.
it was brutal what they were doing. Like, you see that chain dude was just went at it and
Yes, this movie is
unrestrained.
pretty violent. Like
Yeah.
there's a lot of like there's a lot of weapons, there's a lot of violence, there's a lot of
Hmm.
breaking of ankles. There's no like
It,
exposed bones. There's no like it doesn't get gratuitous.
no,
There's blood, you know.
they're all very scarred.
Yes, yes,
Like
yes,
they
yes.
make sure you know this is a violent sport. It's mainly just they're just attacking each other. There's no real like there's no penalties, there's no fouls. There's
Yeah.
just, you know,
Hell, half the
get
game is like pin some guy down, hold him down, let the other team get out there as quickly as they can so we can
hmm
score. Yeah.
yeah.
That's
It's
kind of the goal. So yeah, Dog Boy is hurt. We get another fantastic line because Dog Boy's ankle is broken, and Joan has been trailing them this whole time, offering
hmm
her services as their replacement quick. And obviously, they know she's skilled because she just played against them and she did pretty well for herself.
hmm
And then Dog Boy gives us his best line. Do you remember Dog Boy's best line?
Was it the one where he said nobody carries dog boy, or was it a
Yeah,
different one? Oh, it
yeah.
was
Nobody
that one.
carries
Yeah,
Dog
nobody
Boy. Yeah,
carries
yeah.
dog boy.
Yeah, they're getting ready to
Yeah.
pick Dog Boy up. Rutger is offering to pick Dog Boy up and carry him to the next city so he can get some help. And Dog Boy responds with, "Nobody carries Dog Boy.
Yes.
Give me some food. Give me some water." He gives him food. He gives
Yeah.
him water, and they live Dog Boy to it. And he is not in the movie
Yeah.
anymore.
It was a very elegant exit. It was.
Yep.
He
So
should be proud of himself.
Joan Chin, her character is named Kidda,
Get it?
and she joins the team. And they have a couple training montages. Right, we got to have a
Yes.
training montage, and she learns how to actually play the game. Right, she knows how to be a good quick, but does she
Hmm.
really know the strategy behind juggering? So we get
Yes.
Rutger and Delroy and Vinny Boy to show her the ins and outs. And yeah, we get a
Hmm.
little montage of her doing all this for a little while. Pretty fun.
Yeah. Mm,
Then we get her first game. So the coach, who, if this movie was remade, the coach of the team, I believe, who eventually plays, I believe he would be played by Luis Guzman.
oh yes, 100%. He was
Yeah,
definitely
yeah,
like a
yeah.
an Australian Louis Guzman.
Yes, yes. If you could imagine Luis Guzman, but Australian, that's who
Yeah.
this guy is. He would be
Yep.
the coach. He'd be perfect, absolutely
Absolutely.
perfect. So her first game starts, and she immediately not the best. She
Yeah.
basically
No.
gets almost uppercutted immediately.
Yep.
Like, and they play dirty. There's mixed genders in these games, so the guy just fucking punches her as hard as he can in the face, and it
Yeah.
knocks her off the ground. But she doesn't give up. She gets off of her
No.
feet. She crawls over to him, and she puts him. She must have watched AEW recently. She must be into John Moxley because she puts him in a fucking bulldog choke, and she basically strangles the guy, and then she
Hmm.
bites his ear off.
Yeah.
Yep. Full Tarantino bites his fucking ear off, spits it on him, takes the fucking dog skull, runs it down there, scores her touchdown, wins the game.
Yep.
So they immediately are like, this girl, she's got it,
Yeah.
right? She's got it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We're
She's
going to
got
be
it.
champions. Um, so they spend the next couple of nights celebrating, drinking, and screwing.
Yep.
And then the movie kind of jumps a little bit, and now is kind of where it gets a little less fun. I feel like this part of the movie is where we kind of,
Yeah.
if there were some parts I would change, it would be this whole thing. Because Kidda, she thinks she's ready to go see the league, right? She's been hearing about this
Yes.
league for a while now, and she's ready to go see the league. She wants to go play in front of them so she can get maybe
Yeah.
recruited because that's how it works. Basically, they watch you play, you challenge the league team,
Mm-hmm.
they watch you play, and then if you're good enough and you don't die, apparently,
Yep. Yeah.
then they will recruit you into the league. You join a team, and then now you're part of
Yep.
the little league circuit team. So that's what she wants. Her and Vincent, they think they're good enough for the league.
Yes.
Rutger is a little apprehensive.
Yeah, but with a good reason.
Yeah, because he knows what it is, right? He knows what happens in
Yes.
these league games. He knows that this shit is fucking, it's intense, right? So
Yep.
originally he says no, but he
Well, and he
spends the
also has
nights. Go ahead.
other good reasons.
Yeah, what is your other reasons? Tell me.
Well, his other good reasons, which, I don't know if he does he reveal it there or does he just talk about it later on where
He talks about it
he
later, but we can talk about it now.
well, yeah, because he does end up like letting everyone know that he was he was in the league. I mean, I guess everybody knew it already, but because he loved a woman and that woman was already taken, you know,
Yep.
or was it someone's daughter? It was someone was I can't remember
I
all of a
think it
sudden.
was the daughter of one of the
Yeah.
creepy guys that kind of runs the league.
Yeah, like I guess this is like the high society part of it. I will say
Yeah.
this, and this movie sticks to the sport world building, and
Hmm.
none of the like world outside of that at all gets built up. Like
Yeah, yeah.
we
I
don't
wish.
know what,
Yeah,
yeah, we don't know what the like where these people live. We don't know what it looks like outside of where they are for the most part.
yeah.
So
That was the
we
only thing that I also
literally,
wrote down. I wrote down. I really wish that this we got to spend a little bit more time with some of these people. Once we get to this part of the movie, I feel like it's kind
yeah,
of very rushed, and I feel like at least the U.S. version, I feel like I really could have used those extra 12 minutes.
yes.
Not that it's a bad movie, but those
No,
12
no, no,
minutes
no.
are definitely missing. You definitely
I
feel
think
those
so.
minutes missing.
Yeah, because I wanted to know
Um,
more about the world and like
yeah.
where are they? What are they doing? Like what does it look like? Like, is there certain districts? Is there, you know,
Yeah,
are
yeah.
they
How do
just?
we
Is
how
it
do we
all?
get here? What led up to the
Yeah,
events that got us
exactly.
here? Like we really the movie starts by telling us no one really remembers, but we're
Yeah. See,
here, but
basically,
we don't
yeah,
really remember
yeah,
what led up to this. And it's like, all right, well that's interesting. Um,
yeah.
I wish we got some clues as to maybe what happened, but we really don't, or at least not maybe in the 12 minutes we're missing. Maybe there was something in there.
Maybe there was something more. Yeah.
Yeah, so Rutger originally says no. He changes his mind though after a night of sitting in the shadows and thinking, as we all do.
Yeah.
So he changes his mind. The other members of the team, they're less inclined to go join because they know that this could
Mm-hmm.
potentially be a death trap. I mean, they could
Yep.
die doing this, but they decide to join him anyway. It's a 5-day walk, so they've got a little bit of a journey ahead of them.
Yep.
So as they're walking, they decide they're talking about, this is where we get a little bit of the world building where Rutger tells them about like what you said about the affair. We also learn how
Yeah.
long he lasted in his first match was only 26
Mm-hmm.
stones. And
Yep.
they so both Joan and Vin are like, "Wow, that's it. That's all we have to do is last 26 stones." And he was like, "Well, that's it. Like you only have to last 26 seconds." And it's like that alone is hard to do. And it was like, "All right, well."
Yeah.
So we're getting some world building there. They finally make it to the Red City, and we see
Mm-hmm.
all the sites compared to the city, compared to the desert we've been looking at. This is a little bit
Yeah.
more interesting. But like you said, we
It
don't
is.
really get none of this really is developed or built upon because we only see it very, very briefly. Because we pretty much immediately get to the next part of the movie, which is them putting forth the challenge after
Yep.
they show up and see a game in progress. Rutger sees some
Yes.
of his old friends.
I think most of the budget went to that guy's prosthetics on his face
Yeah,
because
yeah, yeah, yeah. And we also get to meet some of the owners. And I wrote down, I really wish we got to spend more time with the owners. I feel
hmm
like that's the one thing this movie doesn't really do the best is kind of develop them because they are presented as kind of being these like evil, almost succubus like post-apocalyptic vampire bloodthirsty.
yeah,
They're
like
humans
underground
under,
people.
yeah, but they're just like they're kind of obviously more wealthy than everyone else around them,
hmm
and they're subjugating everyone. and they're also
Yeah.
fascinated with blood and violence as they watch this
Yeah.
sport and they pretend that this league is somehow not this barbaric thing that they're presenting it as.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. Um, so the league indoors has a very different feel than the league outdoors I wrote down because eventually the challenge is accepted after a little bit of
Hmm.
finagling. This is when we learn a little bit about the owners. We learn that Rutger pissed him off before, and basically
Yep.
that's why he's been blackballed out of the league. So it's no surprise that they are putting a bounty on his head, basically, like kill him, right?
Yep.
Take him out. That
Take
doesn't
him out.
happen because as we start to play, we get another fantastic line. This is when our Vinny boy goes, "So long, fuckers."
Yeah, that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
shit goes south pretty much immediately for the team during the first 100
Yep.
stones as they are getting their asses kicked. Like every one of them
Oh
gets
yeah.
fucked up. Rutger gets pinned to the ground as he gets to watch Joan and Vinny and everybody else just get decimated. So much so to the point that
Yes.
one of his players can't even continue. So they're
Yep.
down a man.
Yeah.
Or so
It's
they think. Because then Australian Luis Guzman shows up, coach, straps in and says, I'll play. So he's going to
yep.
join the team at the time of need.
It was very triumphant.
It is very much that sports movie like ah
Yep.
right, and he's got a plan, right? He has a plan in mind. Him and Rutger,
Hmm.
they have a plan because their goal is to the big guy on the other team. They're going to isolate him, and then that's going to
Yes.
set up Jones so she can get a clear line, clear path for the touchdown, right? And
Yeah.
that's basically what they do because during the next 100 stone set, after getting absolutely destroyed, now teamwork, baby, teamwork.
Yep.
And they are able to isolate the big guy, free up Joan, and she runs it in for the touchdown
Yep.
with Vinny supporting her with his chain, just looking menacing as he whips it around her
Oh
head.
yeah.
I wonder how many times he accidentally hit somebody with that, or is he
Oh
look? I want to know. I want to know more about this.
yeah, really. Because I mean, you want to talk about somebody that was giving it their all. Like Vincent was, he was there to act,
Yes.
and he was not phoning it in at all.
No, no,
So
no. He does really well in this movie. He
yeah.
this is one of his better movies. So yeah, not only does she have a clear path to the end zone, she doesn't
Hmm.
even run it in. Rutger tells her
No.
to walk it in
Yeah.
to show off basically that they this I believe they say this is the first time this has ever happened that a challenger
Yeah.
team from the wasteland has come in and defeated the league team.
Hmm.
This is also where the movie apparently deviates quite a bit in the US and the international version. So the US version
Um.
pretty much just ends right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah. That was
It
the
just
end.
that's ends. That's the end of the movie. The international version goes on for a bit longer, and
Oh,
we
that's good.
see more scenes. And what we see is that Kidda and Vinny
Hmm.
Boy, they are now in the league and they are playing professionally and doing pretty well.
Yeah.
We did completely gloss over the fact that there's a whole subplot of them being romantically involved with each other.
Oh, that's right.
Um,
Yeah.
which does happen, and Rutger calls it out, but it
Yeah.
is not really important to the movie, honestly.
Not at all.
They both are very talented, and they just also happen to be fucking when they go
Yeah.
we get called up to the league. As for the rest of the group, we see them in the wasteland playing out there as well. So
Oh,
they're no
okay.
longer playing for the league. Obviously, implication he didn't get invited back.
Yeah.
Delroy, they weren't interested in. He was too old. No one else they were interested in on the team. They were all too old. So they all are back on the wastelands doing what they did before. But Kidda
Yeah.
and Vinny are in the league in the pros, tearing it up and having some successful rookie seasons. Is how the movie ends in the international market. Didn't get that
Huh.
in the American market.
No.
And that is the entire movie. So what did you think
That's
of Blood of Heroes, Salute of the Jugger?
saluted the Jugger. I salute it. I salute this movie. It was good. I thought it was like for them to just come up with this idea for this sport. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good idea for a sport, honestly. I mean, obviously it works because people can do it, and it's sort of it has structure enough. So that's good. And it definitely makes sense that it's in post-apocalypse. And I got to say, as far as the visuals go for post-apocalypse, this is good. This is a very like This is your classic, like, wasteland, rags, and just the equipment that they use is just perfect. It
Yeah.
looks all just, cobbled together with whatever they could find. It looks really good. So this is very much a believable post-apocalypse sport to me, and it's compelling. I liked it. I enjoyed the movie. I wish
Yeah.
there was more to it. There's a lot of meat left off the bone that they just didn't touch. So um, they just kind of got a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A little bit linear, a little bit focused. I think
Hmm.
there could have been a little bit more stretched out. A little,
Yeah.
like those 12 extra minutes. I've got to imagine make it.
Yeah,
But
they
yeah.
they they add some more to it. Yeah, definitely. I think like you said, the movie is really good. I really liked it.
Hmm.
I kind of went into it thinking I was going to enjoy it. Just I went into it thinking the novelty alone was going to support it. Just that
Yeah.
it's this post-apocalyptic sports movie. Like when does that like that's an interesting concept. Um, there are some things I don't like about it. Like you said, there's a lot of setup for world building, but we don't really get a payoff for a lot of that. Instead, the movie focuses primarily on the team aspect of it, which is good. It does that really well. I did not like the way the movie started with the false starts. It has like three, there's some football references for you. It has like three false starts at the beginning of it that it just doesn't need to have. I think we could have hacked off those and spent some more time developing the world a little bit. Maybe some of the owners, maybe this league, maybe this how this wasteland, just a little bit of everything. Like you said, a lot left on the bone. But what we do have is a really enjoyable, like 86-minute long, fun post-apocalyptic movie with Rutger Hauer that, I think is not Rutger Hauer's best movie. Um, but it's not his worst movie. I think it's one of his
No.
better movies. If you've never seen this particular Rutger Hauer movie, I'd say that it is a good watch and a fun time.
Hmm.
And if you are a fan of post-apocalyptic movies like we are, I feel like this is a unique one to take a watch of because it is tackling that itch of like sports movie mixed with post-apocalyptic Mad Max kind of exploitation
Hmm.
narrative thing going on. It's a fun time. It is a fun time. It is a really enjoyable movie. I
Yeah.
did feel like that. By the time it gets done, I had a smile on my face and I thought this was a good time. I enjoyed what I watched here.
Yeah. It's a good sports movie too.
Yeah, I'm happy that people have turned it into its own sport. Like I said, I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting that that's like a thing that's happened. That that's what this movie's lasting legacy is going to be. That I wonder if
Yeah.
all the people that have even played the sport have even watched the movie. Like I have to imagine there's quite a number of people that are playing this in the Netherlands that maybe have never watched this obscure 80s,
Yeah.
early 90s Rutger Hauer sci-fi movie directed by the writer of Blade Runner and Lady Hawk. It's a
Unless overseas it's like it's their Rocky or something.
Possibly. Apparently, while filming, Rutger Hauer did get lost in Australia
Hmm.
just following a kangaroo.
Oh, far out.
Yeah, apparently that's the thing that happened while filming was
That's a
happening.
very
So
Rutger Hauer. That's a very Rutger Hauer thing
he's,
to
you know,
happen.
he was very popular overseas. He's very popular in America too. So
Oh
maybe
yeah.
like I said, maybe this movie definitely the primary market of the juggering community is in Europe. So maybe this is
Yeah.
our appeal to them to come over and join our little audience here that we are developing. Our most recent episode, if you're listening to this, the one that came out before this was Six String Samurai, which is actually
Yeah.
now our most listened to episode, which
Well,
is
that's awesome.
pretty cool. Yeah, it did that in just
Yeah.
a day. I put it out
Oh
on
man.
Friday and it had like a couple views on Friday, and I was like, all right, cool. I went to bed, woke up, was doing a bunch of stuff on Saturday with the wife, looked at my phone, and then I texted you and I was like, oh, our episode has like a lot of views all of a sudden, a lot more than I was
Yeah.
expecting. So definitely
And that's a good movie to do that on, because
yeah,
I
Six
love
String
that.
Samurai was a fun time.
It was.
I like talking about movies that I really enjoy, and I think that
Mm-hmm.
we did that last week. We're doing that this week, and then next
Yes.
week, here's what we're going to talk about. Because we're going to talk about another movie. I haven't even told you about this yet, because the
Oh.
movie that we were going to watch this week was a movie that I had originally chosen and given you a random selection, and we randomly
Mm-hmm.
selected Night of the British Dead. But The more research I did into that movie, I was like, you know what? I don't think that's something we need to really watch right now. I feel like if we're
Yeah.
going to get into the Night of the Living Dead, we should approach it with some respect at least, and do it
Yes.
do the do all the Romero movies back to back to back. We can do Night, Day, Dawn. The
That would be
remake,
awesome.
Land, Survival, Day, the whole deal. So rather than starting with
Yeah, that
that,
that would need the respect. We
yeah,
would have to give
there's
it
a
that
lot to say, right?
that
There's a
block.
lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. So rather, we're going to instead watch an interesting movie that I have also never seen. It is on YouTube for free.
Ooh.
Prayer of the Roller Boys.
Oh, I might have heard of this movie.
So this is a 80s Corey Haim rollerblading post-apocalyptic movie.
Okay, yes, I have heard of this.
Okay. Yeah, so that's going to be what we watch next week. So we are rollerblading away from sports and into talking about rollerblading in Prayer of the Roller Boys. This is why I brought up Airborne earlier today,
Very
because
cool.
I was thinking of that movie and because of this movie, because I watched a little bit of this and oh Lord, this is a movie. I don't know what I think of this. The first like 20
Yeah.
minutes of this I watched and I was like, okay, this is something else. So yeah, if you've never watched Prayer of the Roller Boys, give it a watch. I'll link the video so you can watch along next week. It's on YouTube for free. Um, this movie that
Nice.
yeah, thanks for watching or thanks for listening this week as we talked about Blood of the Heroes. Next week we're going to talk about Prayer of the Roller Boys. Like I said, kind of one of the shorter episodes. Unfortunately, the background of this movie wasn't a whole lot there
No,
to
yeah,
really
not
do
a
a whole
lot.
lot of research on. We talked about Rutger. We talked about the movie. I feel like we did a fair job. I
I
feel
feel
like,
good about it.
yeah.
I
I
liked it.
feel
Yeah, I
like
think
it was
we,
a shorter movie too. It's only like an hour and
it
eight.
was.
It's just like an hour and 20 minutes long.
Yeah.
It's not a quite of our Planet of the Apes length. Although
Yeah,
soon
no.
we will return
Soon.
to an epic episode as
Very
we
soon.
talk about our list that I have devised for us is a structured list going forward. I feel like that might help us rather than just doing random ones because sometimes those end up with British movies
Oh
that
yeah.
are just literally
Just a
overdubs of
dub.
George
Yeah.
George Romero movies. So we're gonna end tonight's episode as we stop rambling. As we talk next week, we will be recording, I guess, right before the election. So we'll be in
Oh,
in store for our own little post-apocalyptic scenario,
yep.
possibly. We'll see how that plays out. So we'll talk to you guys next week and hope for the best. See you.
Oh, take it easy.
Hey, you know what I hate is when podcasts get interrupted where they just do kind of benign, asinine commercials telling you to sign up for things and whatnot. That's not what I'm doing. Instead, I'm going to try to give you the fastest advertisement you maybe have ever heard for this podcast. So, let me warm up. Me, 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 me. All right, now I'm going to once again give you the fastest advertisement for a podcast you have ever heard. This is going to tell you to like, subscribe, share with your friends, and do all of that in hopefully as little as half a second. Are you ready? Oh, oh. All right, voice is warmed up. Let's go. Here we go. Fastest advertisement ever. Ah!